The recording has started.
Vigilant Broadcasting, the station of opportunity, presents The Chronicles of Doing Too Much with your host, Angel Riley.
Well, hello, everyone. How are you all tonight? We're having a little bit of a technical difficulty, so I'm hoping I'm not speaking over the music. But hello and welcome. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Chronicles of Doing Too Much. I am your host, the one and only Angel Riley. I am so happy that you all joined tonight. This is Valentine's Day Eve, and it was just so funny as I was thinking about the various topics to discuss for this week. It didn't occur to me about Valentine's Day being February 14th. So this topic is timely because some of us may be single and looking for a Valentine for tomorrow, or we are just enjoying ourselves and being our own Valentine and, doing a little bit of pampering for ourselves, which is always good. I love self-care, and self-care is important. But others of us may find ourselves in situations where we're not in the healthiest spot relationship-wise. So as you guys know, with the Chronicles of Doing Too Much, I am just sharing my story and what has happened to me over the last, almost a decade of my life, being in a situation for almost a decade of my life, and sharing it out in prayer that it will help encourage and inspire others, and inspire you to just live your best life possible. So tonight's episode, we're going to talk about toxicity, and toxicity in the sense of, how do you identify toxic people in your life? Oh, God, I don't know why I'm having trouble this evening pronouncing the letter X. So toxic, all right? Toxic people in your life and some of your own toxic behaviors. And I'm going to try my best to go through this show without becoming overwhelmed with emotion, because this was probably one of the most difficult areas for myself as I started moving towards this road to living the best life possible. And so I had to go to define toxic people. So I went to the trusted Urban Dictionary, and I'm going to read this description of toxic people to you, because it just described perfectly the situation that I found myself in my previous marriage. And it says toxic people, basically an individual or individuals who has a very negative and self-entitlement disorder outlook in life. They are never happy and always want more and more. They are very cunning and secure trust. You don't see it coming till it's too late. They often feel the happiest over other people's misery and loss, and even work to make those things happen. It can be someone as close as your own partner to all the way to more distant relatives. There tends to be those that always have to be taken care of, and attention must always be given. They are very dangerous, and you must stay away from them. They will literally drain you from all your energy and financial resources through various methods and combinations of love-hate cycles designed to confuse you and ultimately break you down. You can literally die from these people. They will lead you astray. And just reading that, guys, and I promise not to be overwhelmed with emotion, but a lot of times we might find ourselves in relationships, and that relationship can be an intimate relationship. It also can be just a friendship. You know, as we said in the definition here, it could be someone as close as your spouse, or someone as a distant relative, or just someone you just met on the street. But how do they get there? And you start to question yourself, and you question your own judgment and say, how did it get here? How did I let this type of person get so close to me? What is it about myself? What behaviors or thoughts that I have for myself that I can find myself so close and in a situation where I'm with a toxic person? Now, brace yourself. What if I am that toxic person? What if I am that toxic person to others? Now, I started out this show, and I'm really transparent, and the whole concept of the Chronicles of doing too much and what's behind it is that sometimes we do too much. And with me, in the baseline of doing too much is that I was so worried about pleasing others and so worried about striving to achieve that life where I had a happy home and children and great career and life was just lovely. When I was so worried about that and so consumed about that, and I didn't realize what I was allowing to happen or relationships that I was embracing in. Now, will I ever say that, you know, my previous relationship was with a bad person? Absolutely not. I honestly don't think my ex-husband's a bad person at all. What I do think is that he wasn't the right person for me. And rather it was just internal things that he needed to deal with, or if it was some behaviors I may have, because guess what? I'll never know, and I'll never assume. And I certainly don't have the credentials in the mental health field to even try to make an assessment. But at the end of the day, what the experience had taught me was how to be stronger and how to be a more observant and how to be more aware of when you see toxicity coming into your life. And if you're truly dedicated to living the best life possible, living your ultimate life, what is it that you're going to stop? What types of behaviors are you going to stop? When are you going to know that you need to walk away? Out of this definition here in the Urban Dictionary, some of the things that jumped out to me is the very first sentence. An individual who has a very negative and self-entitlement disorder outlook in life. Are you that person, or are you around that person where life is just a humdrum? Life is so terrible. No matter how great and how positive things may be, or what an exciting news, life is just terrible. And it's terrible because things aren't going necessarily the way that they want it to go, or they're not benefiting, or they're not the life of the party. They're never happy and always want more and more. What is satisfaction? What is happiness? You know, we miss our blessings when we're so concentrated on what is it that we don't have versus appreciating all that we do have. Man, that's powerful right there. There's a lot of people who wish that they had a home, but we complain about the home we have because it's not the fanciest, that we don't have the latest appliances. There's a graphic that's going around on Facebook, and I absolutely love it, and I shared it with my direct sales team group, and it was talking about perspective. And it was a couple of images in the graphic, and it was an animated graphic. And the first one was a man in a wheelchair looking out the window, watching a man walk down the street. Excuse me. And he was thinking, wow, I can give anything to walk. And then the man walking down the street was standing at the bus stop, and there was a man that came riding down the street on a bike. And he was thinking, wow, I would do anything to ride a bike. Then there was a man, the man on the bike was riding his bike down the street, and he comes up along the side of a man that was in a car. And he was thinking, wow, I would do anything to have my own car. And then there was a man who was in that car and drove up beside a fancier car, a newer car, a car that had all the bells and whistles. And he was thinking, wow, I would do anything for a new car. It's all about perspective. It's all about perspective. And as I talk about our behaviors later in this show, that graphic just said a lot. So if we're never happy with what we have and what we accomplished, we always want more and more, we're truly missing the blessing. And quite frankly, I'm not a biblical scholar, but with my own personal relationship that I'm building with God, how could He possibly trust you with more if you can't appreciate and do right with what He's already blessed you with? You know, I like the next word in the definition. They are very cunning and secure trust. You don't see it coming till it's too late. One of the things that I always say when I went through divorce was like I was sucker punched. Like it just came out of nowhere. I was sucker punched. And let me tell you, there's nothing more difficult than, like any relationship, marriage, boyfriend, girlfriend, friends, family. Like anything, you have your ups and downs, you have your highs and lows. But we have to be cognizant and pay attention to the behaviors. Not only that person that you're in that relationship with, but your own. And let me tell you, there's no worse feeling than being sucker punched. There's no worse feeling when out of nowhere it's just like the world just came crashing down over you. And that's when you get the feeling of overwhelmed, We talked about that on Monday. That's when you get, okay, I got to restructure my personal board of directors when we're looking at, just for my personal life. We talked about that last Wednesday. And then finally, and the most important and most critical of what we kicked off our show series with was owning our truth. And a part of owning that truth is to look at, are we in toxic relationships? That doesn't mean an intimate relationship. It also means friendship. And are we engaging in some toxic behaviors? Toxic people, toxic behaviors, toxic relationships will literally drain you from all of your energy and financial resources through various methods and combinations of love-hate cycles designed to confuse you and ultimately break you down. I love this Urban Dictionary description. Like, that is so powerful. I remember that I was going through a time in my life, and I got bursitis in the hip, and I used to be a group fitness instructor, and and a lot of energy, a lot of fun. That's just who I am. And I woke up one Sunday morning with the most excruciating pain that I've ever felt in my life. It was the worst pain, and I couldn't move. I can't explain to you where that pain came from. I just knew that I never felt anything, and I probably was the most scared in my entire life. And when it subsided, which it took a while, and I was able to get help and went to the doctor, I found that I had bursitis in the hip. And that stopped me from, being able to teach the group fitness class. I had a difficult time walking. It was painful for me to walk. I couldn't run. Probably for about 6 months. I wasn't comfortable being able to run. I couldn't skip. It was physically, I talked about that graphic in perspective, but physically it was one of the worst times of my life. And it had been during that time overwhelmed, depression, not necessarily anxiety, and it was just kind of looking for distraction, something to keep the motivation there. And it was just difficult. I'm going to get off this topic because I'm about to break down emotionally, because I will never forget how terrible that was for me, and just the stress of the 9 to 5 and the relationship at home and dealing, with the mental and being strong. And it was just that toxicity. But then I can also say now, because I'm owning my truth, is that not only did I have toxic people in my life, not only was I married to a man who had toxic behaviors that was draining me, I started engaging in those same toxic behaviors. And it just got down to a point where it just overwhelmed me, and it just took me down. It took me even further into a state of depression, and I probably needed to go seek mental health care at that point in my life, but I didn't. I just dealt with it. I chucked it up. I was strong, what I always do, what everyone expects me to do, when inside I was just dying. I didn't have anyone that I can talk to about what was going on in my mental, anyone that I felt comfortable talking to about what was going on in my mental state in regards to my body, or what was going on in the household in regards to, I'm in the most pain in my life and I could barely walk. It was painful to walk, but I was being yelled at because dinner wasn't done and they didn't eat all day, or having to go to work and have a really mentally engaging and challenging job, and sitting there in pain because sitting in that chair for long hours was just too much, or having to fight for the opportunity to work from home on the days of physical therapy, because the drive, the 45-minute drive from the physical therapist to the office was just a lot on, the pain that I was feeling in my hip, and issues that it possibly was causing across my lower back that may have already been pre-existing. Do you guys feel how overwhelming that is? Can you feel how just all of those thoughts going on in my head alone, not being able to get it out, not knowing to journal, not knowing to take that breath and let it out, just like we talked about on Monday. So having all of that behavior and instances around, led to my own behaviors, me engaging in my own toxic behaviors. With number one, and I'm pulling these behaviors, and this is great. This is an article from 2014 from a blog called Life Buzz, and the author of this article is Lisa B. And I love this because she gives us 12 toxic behaviors that push people away from you. And when you're looking at your mental, you're looking at your state of depression, sometimes we assume these toxic behaviors because we don't want anyone to be around us. We don't want to engage in conversation. We don't want anyone to recognize what we're going through, whether it's fear, embarrassment, whatever. And I know there was a point in my life where that's where I was. I was there. I'm being completely transparent. I was there. So the first one was being envious of everyone else. Guys, let me tell you, I am really self-confident. I can do a really good job. Even at my lowest point, I do a good job of concentrating on what makes me happy, staying in my lane, focusing on my goals. It's very seldom I ever look at what anyone else is doing. Very seldom. Always been like that most of my life. Some people might think it's a negative trait, but for me, it's a positive trait, because if I fall into the bucket of comparison, then I'll never be good enough. So that's just a thing for me. But I used to be jealous of, this is going to sound crazy. I used to be jealous when I had bursitis. I was jealous of people who could run. I would be so upset that I would see the people jogging, at lunch period at work, and I would just go outside because I just needed the fresh air at the lunch period, and I would see the people running, and it'd be super hot outside, and they're running at lunch, and I was like, I know you need some water, you're sweating bullets there. But I was jealous because I couldn't do that, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to get back to teaching my group exercise class. So I would be jealous when I would see all of the other instructors posting their classes. Like, I was jealous because I wanted to be there. I wanted to have my students excited and happy. But I was jealous because I couldn't do it. And because I had that toxic behavior, it was doing a negative number on the mental. So look at that and check it and say, are you jealous, and why? So with me, I wanted to run. That meant that the exercises I was doing in physical therapy 2 days a week, I needed to be doing them at home like the physical therapist told me to do, and I wasn't necessarily doing them all. Owning your truth, right? We kicked it off. Teaching the group exercise class, getting back into that groove. I was getting my trainings every month. So why not pop on a video and watch and learn a routine, so when I could physically do it, I was already ready and had the routines memorized. So you see how you have that toxic behavior and turn it around? Do you see how all of our opening topics are coming full circle? Because these are all aspects that help us to live our best life possible. So it goes into the second behavior, taking everything too personally. Oh, my God, guys. This can be a thing of, all I said was the truth. I don't understand why I did that, or the reaction. Oh, my God, can I get a thank you? Like a pet peeve of mine. A person, I feel like I don't like when I feel like people think I'm invisible. You know how you have those folks that walk down the sidewalk and they expect you to move and you expect them to move, but then instead of both of you being polite, you bump into each other, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm invisible, right? That's taking everything personally. Like, it's really not that serious. One of us needed to concede and say, okay, who's going to be polite here in this situation? But don't take things too personal. I love how the author of this I love how the author of this article, she says, people are toxic to be around when they believe that everything happening around them is a direct assault on them or in some way all about them. Think about it. If you find yourself in a situation that everything happening around you is about you or an attack against you, let's start looking at the source of that problem. The third thing in this article is acting like you're always a victim. Oh, my God. Sometimes, now I'm not saying that you can't be a victim or that there's instances where you may not, that you are truly a victim. I'm not saying that. But everything, come on, everything. This is self-evaluation. I don't think I've really failed too much into always being a victim, but I definitely played a part in certain aspects of my life where I felt like a victim. Hoarding pain and loss. Oh, this is so toxic, guys. This could be a thing. I love the Chronicles. I love sharing how I do too much, how I overwhelm myself because I couldn't let go. I couldn't let go. But when I finally let go, that burden that lifted off my shoulders, the freedom that I felt was amazing. I couldn't let go of getting sucker punched with divorce at a time that I thought we were going to go through the process to have a baby. Do you know how difficult that is on your mental? When you've done all the steps to make sure that you were going to be announcing your pregnancy, and then instead of announcing your pregnancy, you were dealing with divorce? That was hard. That was terrible. That was painful. That was a loss, even though there wasn't any conception. Probably, again, at the top difficult times in my life. And I held on to that for months. Life around me was grand, but I held on to it. But when I let it go, there was such a burden lifted off that life just got more grand because I was able to appreciate the blessings of the right now. Okay, so we're going to go into obsessive negative thinking. Oh my God, I know people like this. I have a person they're not in my life, and I'm probably not dealing with this toxic relationship the most efficiently right now because I'm not dealing. I'm in a good place, and I just can't take other people that's not in that good place. And, this particular situation for me is that I don't hear from this particular friend for years. When things are going great in this particular friend's life, I don't hear from them for years. But then as soon as something's going bad in their life, then all of a sudden I'm being hunted down like I owe this person money. And I'm actually being hunted down right now. And I even went as far as doing a block on Facebook because that's where this person has found me on Facebook. So I had to block them out on Facebook. I hate to say it, but I did. Because I'm in a good space and I don't feel like listening to whatever drama is going on. But everything is negative. Remember the definition from the Urban Dictionary? It drains you. It drains you. And everything does not have to be negative. Oh, it's a beautiful day outside. I don't know what's so beautiful. The pollen count's up there. Whoa, stop, pump your brakes. Come on, let's restart this conversation. And then for tonight, the last behavior is a lack of emotional self-control. And I'm going to read this directly from the article because I think that this was perfectly summarized. And sometimes we find ourselves in a situation because we have this toxic behavior and we may not even realize that we have it. And that is lack of emotional self-control. An inability to manage your emotions is toxic to everyone around you. We all know these people, those who explode in anger and tears over the smallest hiccup or problem, yelling at the grocery store clerk for the long line, screaming at an employee for a small error she made, or losing it with your daughter for spilling juice on the floor. If you can find that you're overly emotional, losing your cool at every turn, you may need some outside assistance to help you gain control over your emotions and understand what's at the root of your inner angst. So in closing, again, I'm not a mental health professional. Don't proclaim to be. I'm not studying to be one. I will not be one. I'm just Angel Riley, the host of the Chronicles of Doing Too Much, who is still in the school of life, who is sharing an experience and knowing what helped me the most. Mental health is strong. Mental health is real. Mental stability is a necessity. And that's why we kicked off this series of episodes talking about various aspects of mental health. To live your best life, to be truly the best person and have ultimate success in whatever goals you want to aspire. It all starts with your mental. So if you haven't heard all 4 episodes of this broadcast, I encourage you to go to our site, Listen to the replays, take notes, send me comments, ask questions. My email is angel@angelriley.com. Let's engage in a conversation to talk about where we are mentally. So I look forward to our next episode of the Chronicles of Doing Too Much. We're going to enter into topics about entrepreneurship and various aspects of growth in entrepreneurship and how to make that decision to jump. We're also going to talk about how network marketing can help you start. It can be your springboard into greater and bigger things. So thank you so much for joining me tonight, and I look forward to speaking with you all next week. Good night.
Thank you for tuning in. Remember, you define your own success. Believe you can do it, build a solid foundation, know your circle and soar. Until next time.